has been spreading so fast that we have to analyze and see what we will be looking like in post-COVID scenario. Social distancing has been the norm. Virtual education has been the norm. So when Bangalore University started this online education from March 14th, I think the Department of Sociology is one of the first departments to implement online education. So how is the social setup that is going to change with respect to education? I'm seeing more of rural students participating in online education. I see more of urban students dropping out of online education because they just switch on the system and they are not actually focused. But we see the rural students sitting on the treetop, sitting on the rooftop, sitting under a tree. They have been trying to attend classes and learn and acquire knowledge. So the sociology, social aspect of the entire society has changed with this pandemic. How are we going to face this challenge, new challenge? The challenge is, how do you carry on with our education, knowledge, skill, notwithstanding the pandemic, COVID? I was always trying to tell Abraham Maslow theory of hierarchy, human beings, the relationship between human beings, the relationship between the individual, family, society, and the world is what we have to think about. Sociology is just not, it cannot be studied in isolation. The economy, political environment, and the social animal, all are integrated. They cannot be studied in isolation. They are interwoven. For example, a person with a poor economical status does not achieve a high social status. I can keep on talking like this, but you know that Samatha has given me only 5 minutes. So I have to complete my talk in 5 minutes. And I would love to talk to all the students. Now I have got greater opportunity during this COVID to talk and meet all the students of all the departments of Bangalore University.
Sir, I have given to you 15 minutes, sir. Please.
No,
sir. Very well going, sir. Very well going, sir.
Pardon?
Very well going, sir. I have given to you yesterday 15 minutes, sir.
Okay. I always used to tell 15 minutes is too less a time. And I remember G.P. Rajaratnam, the great literary giant of Bangalore University, who said, when I am a student, I learn from my teachers. When I am a teacher, I learn from my students. So every question which you pose and everything which you interact, it is very actually, useful to me, and I do much better in the next class. I've been teaching for the last 41 years and I see the social evolution of the students with me. I always look after them as though as like my own children. That is a sociological aspect. That is sociology. How many teachers have been able to do that? When you look after the students as your own children, that brings a great transformation in the society. That molds the child. That molds this student into whatever you call molds into a higher confidence and a higher achievement level. Baba Sahib Ambedkar was a genius. But how did he commit himself to the society? It is not just by, moving with people. He was able to bundle his knowledge, integrate his knowledge and skill which he had, and then he gave it to the world. So, my humble suggestion to each and every one of you is that you should emulate Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Study, study, study. Acquire knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. Acquire skill, skill, skill. He said, ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ, ಹೋರಾಟ, ಸಂಘಟನೆ. ಇದು ಮೂರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್, ನಾಲೆಜ್, ಸ್ಕಿಲ್. ಇದನ್ನ ಮೂರು ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಎರಡು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವುದು? ಸಂಘಟನೆ, ಹೋರಾಟ. ಸೊ ಈ ಎರಡು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇದು ಜೊತೆನಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಇದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕೆಲ್ಲ. ಯಾವುದು? ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್, ನಾಲೆಜ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್. ಇದು ಮೂರು ಕಲ್ತಾಗ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ ಇಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ಕಾಂಪಿಟಿಟಿವ್ನೆಸ್, ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅಕ್ವೈರಿಂಗ್ ನಾಲೆಜ್, ಅಂಡ್ ನಾಲೆಜ್ ಇಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಸಫಿಷಿಯಂಟ್. You must have sufficient skill. And so sociology is one aspect where it brings a complete total human being in a person. The deep sociological impact that you have throughout your life is the study of sociology. So I thank the Department of Sociology for giving me an opportunity to be in this program. I'm already running 2 other programs. The 2 other programs are there in the 2 other devices, and I have stopped that and I have come here. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to be with that. And I know it is very difficult to bring people across, all the experts, onto a single platform. This online education has brought experts across the world into Department of Sociology, Bangalore University. I congratulate Sudha Kokte, Samata Deshmane, and Professor Mailarappa, and Somashekar, and Venkataramanappa. These are the 5 teachers who are there, I think. Anybody else whom I have forgotten?
Professor Rajesh.
Rajesh is also here, sir. I'm here, sir.
Yeah, Rajesh. And this will build a great team, and it will take the Department of Sociology to the next higher level. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so
sir.
much, sir. Thank you so much for taking
you, sir.
time and addressing the participants, sir.
Can I leave with
Yes,
your
sir.
permission?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes,
sir.
sir.
You have given very good suggestions and good the golden time for our society, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, we shall continue now. That was a wonderful inauguration by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Venugopal, sir. Yes, to begin with, before I introduce our speaker today, Professor Vivek Kumar, who is the chairperson of the School of Social Systems, Center for the Study of Social Systems from Jawaharlal Nehru University, JNU. I would like to say that this COVID-19 pandemic has affected approximately 7 million people, and the death toll has surpassed even 4 lakhs across the world today. India has also borne the brunt. So the impact of this pandemic is visible across the sectors globally, but its impact on the marginalized sections has been immense, and India is also facing the brunt of that. So this crisis is going to affect the economy as never before, leading to massive socio-psychological impact as well. To talk on this, to talk on the socio-psychological understanding, we have Dr. Vivek Kumar, sir, joining us from JNU. I would like to introduce and read a brief biodata of sir. Professor Vivek Kumar, sir, is a professor of sociology at the Center for Study Social Systems, Social Sciences, Jawaharlal Nehru University. He is currently the chairperson of the same center. During his tenure, the department has secured a 55th rank in the world, 8th in Asia, and of course, number 1 in the country in the QS ranking, and that's a very rare achievement. Professor Vivek Kumar is also a coordinator for the Global Studies program of the university, which is run by 6 universities. He's also the chairperson instituted by the Ministry of Empowerment and Social Justice, that is Government of India. He's a recipient of Fulbright Teachers Fellowship. Professor Vivek Kumar is a visiting associate professor in the Department of Sociology, Columbia University, New York and USA, which he has taught a course on social exclusion and inclusion in Indian society. He has completed a research project on social status and social attitudes in India, a study of Indian college students with the Harvard University, USA, and University of British Columbia, Canada. Earlier, he was also involved in a project called Building Global Democracy, including the excluded with University of Warwick, UK. He was invited to deliver Dr. Ambedkar Memorial Lectures in the University of British Columbia. He has his publications include Caste and Democracy in India. He has edited volumes, Dynamics of Change and Continuity in the Age of Globalization. He has supervised around 35 MPhil and 30 PhD students. He is also the author of Caste and Democracy in India, A Perspective from Below, co-edited Dynamics of Change and Continuity in the Era of Globalization, Voices from the Margin. Professor Vivek Kumar was also called to the Planning Commission and Ministry of Empowerment and Social Justice. He is the chairman of the subgroup of Awareness Generation Statistics, Monitoring Innovation and Research for the formulation of the 12th five-year plan by the Ministry of Empowerment and Social Justice. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. I now hand over the session to Professor Vivek Kumar, sir.
Please welcome, sir. Professor Vivek Kumar, sir. Please welcome to the Department of Sociology, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
He'll just join, ma'am. He'll just join.
Okay.
Am I audible and I am visible?
Sir, you are not visible, sir.
Thank you, everyone. And of course, the chairperson of the center, Professor Samta. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Thank
your
you.
video.
Am I audible and visible?
Not visible, sir.
Am I visible to you all?
No, sir. Not visible. Not visible.
Not visible audio. Video is not.
Okay. I think, you people have gone to YouTube.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಎಲ್ಲರದು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇವರೊಬ್ಬರದೇ ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇನೆ ಎಲ್ಲರದು ಆಡಿಯೋ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ
I can't see myself.
The host can mute everybody except the speaker.
Sir, Vivek sir, we are not able to see you, sir.
Is it okay now? Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
I don't know exactly what has happened. Hello.
Sir.
Sir, unmute your video, sir. Unmute your
Yeah,
video.
it's still not. I don't know. Actually, you people have come to actually YouTube.
Sir, start the video, sir, please.
Hello.
Video is on. Ask him to disconnect and get it connected again. Actually, his video is on. I think it got stuck.
Sir, can you come again, sir? Can you log in again, sir?
ನಾನು ಮಾತಾಡ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಯಾವ ವಿಷಯ
ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಯಾರು?
ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾಸ್ಟರ್ಗಳು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಚಪ್ಪಲಿ ಹಾಕೋಬೇಕು ಇಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ
ಹೋಸ್ಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲರದು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬೊಬ್ಬರೇ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಎನೇಬಲ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬಿಡಬೇಡಿ ಎಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ದ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಒನ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸರ್.
Professor Vivek sir will join us again. He is re-linking again. So please kindly bear with us.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Yes. Hello. Hello.
Sir, yes, sir, we can see and we can hear you also.
Fine, actually. That's
Yes,
what.
sir, you are there. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So nice to see you, sir.
Thank you. This is what we are all challenged by the sometimes technology. So okay, sir. So let me begin with thanks, Professor Venugopal, Vice Chancellor. I've heard him actually, and he was kind enough to tell us that look, sociology is interdisciplinary, and we cannot be actually standing sociology alone. So we have to understand sociology along with other disciplines. Professor Samta Deshmane, chairperson of the center, Dr. Sudha, who has really made it possible for me to join all of you. Thank you so much for inviting me for this talk. What I titled actually, and I see a lot of students, so I made it very simple how to understand this pandemic, because this is really a multidisciplinary topic. And to make it sociological and to make it very simple, I have tried to raise a number of questions. At least I have tried to raise 15 questions, and I will read my lecture in this manner only with 15 questions. So begin with, I want to understand what exactly is virus. What is virus? How many types of viruses are there in Indian subcontinent? And what do we mean by pandemic? And how it is different from epidemic? Then I come to ask actually, is there any other example of a pandemic which exists before COVID-19? And then sixth question, the host has unmuted me. What is the most important sociological process which has impacted the spread of COVID-19? Now, there are three interrelated processes which I will like to talk here. Then I come to the sixth question here, is that where did coronavirus took birth and when did it spread? And then it brings me to the topic that how did coronavirus has spread world over and when was it reported in India? Now it is here that sociological aspect starts, and therefore I ask a question, why it is germane to understand pandemic, this pandemic 2020 from a sociological perspective. And that brings me the aspect of basically the marginalized sections, which is the group which has been affected the most. I will first actually give you the numbers. I will also bring in the groups, specific groups, and then I will also like to talk about certain concepts like culture. Is culture a monolithic whole? Is sociological understanding really required? Whether pandemic affects biologically or it also affects sociologically. I think these are few questions which will be answered. Now, last point is that I ask, what is the way out? It is not actually, I want to only understand what pandemic is and who are the people who are affected the most and why are they affected, but what is the way out? And there are two ways. One is practical, doable concepts which are there, existing, and people are implementing, and there are some philosophical aspects which will be required to understand. So this is the framework in which I will be trying to. I think kids are also joining in this program. Great. Now, let's come to define what is virus. I think why I want to interact on this plane, why I want to say that why my sociologist, my social scientist should have understanding of virus. Fighting virus. The problem is that people do not know what is virus, but they are fighting virus. That is a very crazy thing. And therefore, I want to argue that you should understand what is virus. So virus is a small organism which is not visible through naked eyes, but it is visible through microscope. And the second very important aspect of virus is that it produces itself in a host cell using the cell resources. It cannot be divided like bacteria by mitosis. So I think sociologists should understand that virus is also a type of organism which is in the environment. Now there are 13 types of viruses which are very much prevalent in the Indian subcontinent, and we all know them, but we do not care about them. For example, there is a rabies virus, there is mumps virus, there is dengue virus, there is measles virus, there is polio virus, there is also rotavirus, the rabies virus, which happens actually, and then there is HIV/AIDS virus. These are 13 types of viruses which exist in our subcontinent. We should be aware of it as a sociologist. Now, this brings me to the other point. What is coronavirus? Basically, coronavirus is a group of 3 viruses. Coronavirus is a group of 3 viruses. One is SARS-CoV, severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus. And second is Middle East respiratory syndrome. So there is basically, this virus attacks our respiratory organs, and that is lungs. And therefore, it becomes very, very fatal because lungs are actually the pumping station of the breathing. And if we cannot inhale oxygen, then how can we survive? And therefore, it becomes very, very fatal. So we have to understand the severity of this virus and which is the organ which it attacks. And that's why I'm spending little bit of time, because people do not have little time to make people understand that why it is so fatalistic. Now, coming to the third point, why it is called as pandemic and why it is not epidemic. So if you see, epidemic is defined as outbreak of disease which occurs on wide area of geography. That is epidemic, wide range of geographical. But pandemic cut across the country and it can engulf the world over. And that's where we are seeing how COVID-19 has been declared by WHO as a pan-world phenomena. It is not a country. There are every countries which are basically suffering from, and that is why it is pandemic. The earlier pandemic, the example of earlier pandemic was HIV/AIDS. HIV/AIDS has killed 39 million people since 1982. So in 1982, there was a pandemic called HIV/AIDS, and that has killed more than 39 million of the people. No, this is what is one aspect of my presentation, which I have taken from medical sociology. Now, coming to the second aspect, that is, which is the process, which is the social process that has facilitated the spread of COVID-19 the most. And here, there are three very important processes. The first process which I hold as a sociologist, which I think is the most important process which has engulfed, and that is globalization. You all know globalization is a process by which the, especially after 1990s, and that is Washington Consensus, that various countries have opened their borders, and there has been, that borders have become very porous, restrictions in economic exchange were lifted, and this has facilitated the process of liberalization of economic policies, MNCs, transportations, information revolution. They all have helped the process of globalization, and therefore there has been increased migration. So interrelated aspect of globalization is migration. Now, what is the quantum? This is the sixth question. What is the quantum of migration of people in the world which has taken place? Now, I am reminded of a migration, World Migration Report 2020. And I'm quoting this from there. World Migration Report 2020, page 3. Now, this report argues that there were 2,729 lakh of people. So 2,729 lakh of people, they have migrated internationally across the world. Now, what is the contribution of India? How many of Indians have migrated world over? It is said that Indian diaspora is some 35 lakh, and actually 35 million. 35 million is Indian diaspora world across. Now, within this, there were 175 lakh of people who have migrated. Indians have migrated across. Now, therefore, friends, what happens that migration and globalization become two very important processes, sociological processes, which have contributed in the spread of COVID-19. This is another point, and I am elaborating this very point, that now we see a spread of virus. But this question, this is the seventh question which I am talking about, that where was coronavirus first detected or born? It is a contested concept, and it is a contested fact. Some people argue that the first coronavirus cases were detected in China, and that is Wuhan Valley. Now, there are unconfirmed sources which debate that virus COVID-19 emerged from Wuhan Institute of Virology. Wuhan Institute of Virology in the city of Wuhan, W-U-H-A-N, Wuhan, that is in Hubei province of China. And it is a center of virus culture. Now you can imagine, China has a virus culture collection, and you will be very astonished to know that this institute has 1,500 strains of viruses. 1,500 500 of strains of viruses. Now, according to the Guardian newspaper report, that, COVID-19, the first case of COVID-19 was reported on 17th November 2019. 17th November 2019. And by December, there were 60 confirmed cases in China. According to another report of World Health Organization, now dated 20th February. So the first case was reported on 17th of November. Now by 20th of February 2020, at least 34 provinces or cities of China were infected. 34 cities, and in that 74,675 individual cases were recorded in China. So China becomes the center from where the COVID virus starts actually spreading. And on the same very date, on February 20th, 2020, World Health Organization reported that along with others, there are basically 26 countries which are suffering from the spread of coronavirus. So we can see that spreading is also a process. And why spreading has taken place? It has taken place because of the process of migration of the people, and migration took place because of globalization. Now, let us come to India. This brings me to the 8th question. When did the first case of COVID-19 was discovered in India? And how many people came from abroad? How many people came from abroad? Now in India, it is said that the first case was reported on 30th January. So we can see that from China first case was reported in 2019, and India it is 30th January. So it took almost 1.5 months or 2 months to come to India, which is only 3,000 kilometers away. But it first goes to US. Now, however, by 13th March 2020, it was found that most of the reported cases, 99 of COVID-19 cases, had come from abroad. At least 23 cases, this is I'm talking about 30th January. 23 cases out of 50, they were from Italy or through Italy, 4 from Iran, and 3 from China, 7 from US and Dubai, and 1 each from Thailand and Oman. That means 7 countries of the world were responsible for the spread of COVID-19 in India for the first time. Now, it is also interested. Now, the spread I'm talking about, the people who have come from outside, and it is anybody's guess whether these people who are coming, they were tested, fine, but how many people had taken pills so that the fever can be subsided and they can come in. Now, therefore, I quote actually Cabinet Secretary of India, Rajiv Gauba, who said that we started screening of the international incoming passengers at the airport from January 18th. And we have found that the Bureau of Immigration have said that more than 15 lakh people have come in India. Before the first lockdown was there were 15 lakh people had already come. That means from 18th of January to March 23, 66 days before the first lockdown was clamped in India, 15 lakh air passengers had already arrived in India, and they had gone to their own states. Maximum people were from urban centers. Now, this is another sociological understanding that when we see Bombay and Delhi, we see Chennai, we see maximum cases are from urban centers. And initially, they were in the urban center. So the process of urbanization, migration, and globalization can be looked into as three very coordinated processes. Now, our people, therefore, we can see that the spread of virus took place because of the process of globalization, migration, and in the urban centers. Now, this brings me to understand that there is a geopolitical sociology which is involved in this, because globalization has led to a very different geopolitical situation in which country borders are porous and migration can take place in very easy manner. So we have to keep in mind these sociological process in sociology when we are talking about marginalization. Now, coming to the ninth point, are people afraid of COVID-19? If yes, they are afraid, then why are they afraid? Now, this is socio-psychological process, because fear is a psychological state of mind. And therefore, sociology, as your vice chancellor was talking about, as your chairperson and other organizers are talking about, that this is a interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary topic. And that's why psychology becomes a very important aspect. So the simple answer is that yes, people are afraid. Now, why are they afraid? The answer is basically that they are afraid to understand the enemy. So they are unable to understand the enemy. How powerful is the enemy? There is an enemy, but they are not able to fight the enemy. There have been now at least 5 months or 6 months is going, and we are not able to control. Now the fear is because they will fall ill. That is one. Second, they are afraid that if they fall ill, where will they go? The preparation of the government, that is not there. They are not able to find medicine. They are not find hospitals. If they are able to find hospitals, they are not beds. There are insufficient beds, ventilators, masks, sanitizer, and so on and so forth. So the medical facilities are not at place, and therefore psychologically they are afraid. Now, under these circumstances, what is the measure which government has told to us to fight the coronavirus? The first and the foremost is distancing, and that's where sociology starts becoming very clear. Distancing is tipped as social distancing. Basically, it is not distancing as it is social distancing, which has been named, and I will come to that a little bit later. The second aspect is wash your hand. The third is use mask. Then actually fourth is tracing, fifth is testing, and then sixth is isolating, and then treating, and last is basically we started with lockdown. These are the measures. Now, if we take the measure in totality, then whether these measures are working or not, that is where sociology will prove. And this is where actually why I say that, why sociological perspective is must for understanding COVID-19 problem and Indian situation. Now, sociologically, if we start understanding, what is the answer we get? The simple answer is that pandemic may affect people biologically in very similar manner. They can affect, because you will fall ill, I will also fall ill. Anybody can fall ill. So there is a symmetry of impact as far as biological it is concerned, but sociologically the impact is differential. It is differential in the sense that how number of people they are impacted. Now this brings me to the evaluation of the term sociologically which has been used as far as social distancing is concerned. social distancing is one of the important measure to keep check of the spreading of the virus. And that's where the question of culture starts emerging. Is culture a monolithic whole? Now the answer is that culture is society specific. And you all know how E.B. Tyler tried to define culture. Culture is a whole which consists of ideas, beliefs, and values which you learn as the aspect or part of the society. Now, in that context, I'm using culture. Now, each culture has its own values, norms, patterns of interaction, which is specific to that particular society. Therefore, we cannot apply cultural construct of one country to the another country. Now, here what is important to understand, social distancing or the norms of cleanliness, all these norms which is considered to universal norm were declared by WHO that you have to maintain social distancing. Now my problem is that Indian society practices social distancing in number of contexts. The first social distancing can be remembered, if you can remember, is during the birth of a baby. People keep social distancing. Death of an individual in the family, people keep social distancing. During menstruation cycle of the women, they were also declared to keep social distancing. These were known as temporary social distancing. But there is a permanent type of social distancing practiced, with the ex-untouchables of Indian society. Now, if we are talking about social distancing, which is already there, and this social distancing of the ex-untouchables of Indian society, this has been legitimized, sanctioned. And if you break the laws, then you will be physically punished or you will be socially boycotted. And this brings this social distancing, because of the untouchability, brings this exclusion, it gives humiliation, it also tries to, exclude people from interactional pattern. Now, if you are using this terminology, there is a danger. And that's what, many of the Dalits told and wrote in social sites. They also actually talked about. And that is why Prime Minister of India in his Mann Ki Baat was actually talking about using the term physical distancing. That actually, if you use unknowingly social distancing, that it might legitimize the age-old practice of untouchability. That's what actually the fear which was expressed to us by the ex-untouchables or Dalits. Even the visually challenged people express their displeasure on the cultural construct social distancing. They started arguing, oh sir, when we need the most your support. So visually challenged people were saying that we need your support the most. This is the time when we need help. And you are keeping away. You are going away from us. You are keeping a social distancing. No, sir, we want social solidarity. And therefore, the term social distancing is a misnomer as far as the Indian culture and society is concerned. And therefore, we need to problematize in sociology what is the correct sociological term which has to be used as far as this is concerned. Now, having explained you the cultural aspect, now I come to the numerical aspect, that which is the group which was impacted by COVID-19 the most. And let us give you a data a little bit, because it will help us to understand, because people understand numbers more, and that's why I'm giving you numbers. Now, according to World Bank, there are 27.6 crore people in India who live below poverty. Below poverty, 27.6 crore people. So you can understand that how poor people were the first to be impacted by the COVID-19. Then it is said that there are 4 crore migrant laborers in India. 4 crore migrant laborers in India. And you know, I am just quoting you that when the first lockdown happened, they were given only 4 hours. 4 hours that they can migrate here and there, or they can adjust themselves. But friends, how can it happen that within 4 hours, such a huge population? And let me give you more. I'll give you 2-3 examples from the slums, which are considered to be marginalized section. I take example from Delhi, Mumbai, and Lucknow. Now in Delhi, it is said there are 750 slums. You can understand how many slums are in Bangalore, or in Bangalore, you can actually look into that how many slums are there. But I'm giving you data from Delhi. Delhi have 750 slums, in which 3,350,000 families live. That means some 27 lakh people were affected on the night when actually lockdown happened. Another, Mumbai, 52 lakh people live in slums. In Lucknow, there are 787 slums out, and there at least 10 lakh people live. So such a large mass was living in slums. And can they really organize themselves within 4 hours to live a happy life? And therefore they cannot be, and they started actually living in the shelters made by governments, so-called governments made. But what did government do? Governments were giving them food, evening, morning breakfast, lunch, and actually they were giving dinner. But they were small kids, children, those who fed only on milk. No government has yet told us that they were given milk for the kids as well. And therefore it was very difficult for them. Even the food was not enough. We were interviewing some actually, people, and they said that this is not enough. Food is not enough, and therefore it is very difficult to live. And that is where, they started migrating. Now, we have heard horrendous story of Jyoti Kumari. Jyoti Kumari, if you remember, is the girl, 13-year-old girl, who drove her father on bicycle 1,100 kilometers from Haryana, Gurugram to Darbhanga, 1,100 kilometers. This is one example. I'm trying to make sense that how they were impacted and how in panic they left for home because they were not having enough. This is the marginality of the individuals. The second group which I want to discuss is impact is SMEs. MSMEs, micro, medium, and small scale industries. And I want to give you, because these industries, they have at least they give work to 80 million people. They employ 80 million people, and that's why these laborers, migrant laborers, become a class of marginal groups which has been subsided, which have been put under the carpet. Now, what is the number of MSMEs? The number of MSMEs are 6.33 crores. 6.33 crores, and in which 99.4% are micro enterprises. Now, we understand that micro and medium and small scale industries are backbone of the work. Now, there are at least 8 or 9 industries within these, starting from repair industry, starting from repair of the motorcycle industry, hotels, beverages, the cloth industry. These are all small and micro scale industries in which actually 65% of the people work in rural areas. So we have to divide the problem of these micro and small scale and medium scale industries, which are contributing to the coffers 8% of GDP of India, and there are 80 million of people. So we have to bring these people together to understand the problem. Now, having said this, the impact on the schools, school goers, and there is a case from Kerala where a small girl committed suicide because she was not having a laptop to attend the class, because she wanted to attend, but she doesn't have. So it is nice to say that actually we can attend things online actually, but are people prepared? And I am saying 30% of India is already out of this digital divide, which is going to take place. So we have to understand the marginality of the poor people who cannot afford. And in Delhi, this case was brought to the High Court, in which people say that there are 50,000 people who did not have laptop and online classes, and therefore they actually went to the schools and they said, no, we don't want online classes. So there is a resistance of digital divide taking place in India, and that we have to keep in mind. That can be an outcome. Now, having said this, let me come to the very important point of the PDS system. PDS is considered to be one of the important basis for people having the grains to survive on. Now, we know that there is enough grain in the granaries of the country, but what are the processes which are being mooted to fight? And this is cash transfer scheme. That is an alternative which is suggested. Now, we have 73,000 tons of food grains in Delhi godowns, but they are not getting distributed. And there is enough 1,000 tons of food is lying in Indian granaries. But we are trying to moot that. You have cash transfer scheme. Now, we all know that illiterate masses, there are more number of PDS shop in India than banks.
Very good response.
Now, in banks, the banks are basically less in number. There are more PDS shops. So instead of actually relying on cash transfers, we should have relied more on distribution of grains through our PDS shop. We should have universalized it. Now, this is very important for the marginalized section, for the people who live on daily wages. Now, another scheme which is being sought is Mahatma Gandhi Rural Development Employment Scheme, MNREGA, National Rural Development. Now, this actually, here we have to look into how corruption should not, intrude in it. Otherwise, marginal sections will not get, because villages have dominant sections, and villages in dominant sections of the villages, they force that their people should only get the job cards. Everyone will not get the Dalits, the minorities. They will not get actually the job cards. That's where actually we have to be very, very cautious that how women, minorities, Dalits, the tribals, they should get the access towards MNREGA, PDS, and other shops. Now, the last point actually which I was trying to make here, as far as sociology was concerned, this was, stigma attached to the COVID patients. And one stigma was attached to minorities, especially, Tablighi aspects, which we should not forget. Certain section of the media tried to popularize an aspect that the spread of COVID-19 was because of Tablighi Jamaat, people who were infested in Delhi. That was very, very annoying, but it happened, but it has passed. But now we have come to know that how spread has taken place, not from inside, but from outside the country. And therefore, so friends, stigma is one of the important, aspect which we have to fight. And if we cannot understand virus, if we cannot understand the process, we will remain with the stigma. And this will not help the cause to actually stop the spread of the coronavirus. The last point which I want to make, what is the way out then? I said SMEs were very, there's a story of SMEs. If you really are interested, please read Indian Express on 25th of June. There was a story from Darbhanga, Bhagalpur, sorry. There is a story from Bhagalpur, the small scale and medium scale industries. And this is a weaving house, a small weaving house owned by Ziaur Rahman, who runs, a largest weaving unit in Bhagalpur. And he used to weave 10,000 square meters of silk per day. And he used to earn 30 lakh of rupees per month. But after COVID, that is after February, he says that his 95% of the business has gone. No new order is being placed, and the old orders are getting cancelled. Not only cancelled, but actually the orders which were there inside his house, it is not being delivered. And he had import with Europe, with America and Middle East. Now it is not happening. Similarly, from Lucknow, we have come to know about the mango growers. How are they suffering because of this COVID? So I think there is a very important, area, long area, which we have to cover in sociology, taking multidisciplinary approach. Now, what is the way out? There are two actually very important aspects which we say that it is a way out. One is, Kerala model, as we say. Now, Kerala model should not be equated with communist. First of all, let me underline this, that as soon as I say Kerala model, people start thinking that it is only communist model. It is not, because Kerala has been ruled by Congress, has been ruled by communists, and has been ruled by coalition for so many ideologies. Kerala has seen movements, temple entry movement in 1930s, temple entry movement in 1930s. Kerala has seen peasant movements in 1950s and 60s. Kerala has seen literacy movement in 1980s. And also it has Kerala Sahitya Parishad movement has been seen in 1990s. It has gender and environmental movement, very strong. Vibrant civil society, 2 lakh volunteers. They were going door to door to identify those who were sick or those who were at risk. Women self-help group, the Kudumbukam Shri, the Kudumbu Shri movement prepared 3 lakh meals per day. 3 lakh meals per day. Now, this is the Kerala model I am talking about. Now, in that context, if you look, friends, this is an article you can read. This came in Hindu. This is an article by Patrick Heller. Patrick Heller. He wrote an article on April 18. April 18, and he said that actually, what is the way out? And his analysis was social democracy. Social democracy is the way out fighting the pandemic COVID-19. What is social democracy? Therefore, this is a 14th question which I wanted to answer. What is social democracy? Now, social democracy are built on an encompassing social pact with political movement to provide basic welfare and broad-based opportunity to citizens. It is a pact encompassing between political commitment and providing basic needs to broad people. Now, to broad facilities, opportunities to citizens. Now, because of this, there is a confidence between the political masters and the citizens. And as soon as there is a confidence between the two, then what happens? When there is basically local body functioning, the people are on their move. They are conscious. They start asking their rights. As soon as their rights are not delivered, they will start protesting. And that's where this consciousness of the citizens at the grassroots level keeps the political people on their guard, and they cannot leave. And therefore, friend, robustest government health. I'm seeing that how in Delhi, the private people, the private hospitals, they are charging exorbitant rates, and therefore government has to come on their help. Now, one very important therapy was plasma therapy. Now, plasma therapy is not available to the people, to the common masses. Common masses could have got plasma therapy had it been practiced in government hospitals at cheap rate, but that is not happening. Now, similarly, if tomorrow, the $1 million question is, if tomorrow, if we get the pills or injection for COVID-19, how will it be distributed? Will it be distributed to the marginal, poor, the rural, the slum people, or will it be first accessible to the upper strata of the society? I think that is a moral question which we have to think. So the way out is social democracy, in which all the institutions of government, social and political institutions, they come together and they start functioning in tandem, having confidence on each other, and citizen starts listening to the other people. Now, this is the physically, which has been practicable in Dharavi. It has been practiced in Kerala, and it has been practiced in many other, in even Rajasthan area also. I think in one district it was practiced. Now, last point is, what is the philosophical way? Philosophical way is also there. So there are 4 philosophical aspects to fight the COVID. The first is doing away the ignorance. You have to do away the ignorance with the virus, with the pandemic, with the aspects. If you are not literate in this, then definitely you will. And that brings the point of transparency. Ignorance means people should not be caught unaware. There should be transparency in the mode of delivery. The second philosophical aspect there should be social solidarity. Social solidarity has to be there. People should not be divided on the religion, caste, class, region, language, or even gender aspects. They have to come together. So social solidarity. Third, no discrimination in distribution. So discrimination should not be there in distribution. That has to be, democratized. Last but not the least, fighting the greed. On hoarding, people should not hoard. We have heard stories where people have started hoarding ventilators. They wanted to sell ventilators on premium. This is the way I think we should have. Share the information. I think every nation of the world which is having some information about the COVID has to share it with the other nations, whether it is pill, whether it is injection, whether it is any other facility to stop spread. I think they should share about the information. So sharing. So there, these four actually fighting ignorance, including solidarity, no discrimination, and fighting greed. These are four philosophical points which will help us to fight COVID. This is the way out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this intellectual deliberation. Thank you for focusing on social solidarity, fighting the greed, a philosophical aspect, bringing a philosophical aspect to it. I now open this session to the questions from the participants. You can please raise your hands if you have a question.
Or you can write it also.
Sir, yes, or sir can also answer it one-to-one.
There are two participants who have raised their hands.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
you can ask the question. Please ask the question.
Hello, sir. I am Shahina Banu from Maharani Arts College. I have one question. Shall I ask?
Yes, yes, carry on.
Sir, recently, from 15 days back, one Spit Free India movement has started by the central government in collaboration with the NSS. Hello, sir.
Yes, yes, I'm listening.
Spit Free India movement has started by the central government in association with National Services Scheme. So they have given responsibility to each NSS officer to spread this movement through the emails. So now it is working very good. Till today, within 3 days, more than 15,000 lakh students registered for this one. So it will going on well.
Okay, thank you. Now, this is not a question, this is a comment. I welcome. Yeah, good. Anyone else? Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Sir,
yes.
I have a question.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
My name is Priyanka Dwivedi. I'm a PhD research scholar from Center for Women's Studies, Bangalore University. So
Yes.
you talked about how globalization has led to the spread of this virus. Do you think, I want to know your perspective and view, that now that the problem has been detected and migrant laborers have suffered en masse, do you think that after the control of the virus also in the post-COVID era, this sort of movement, migration of laborers for livelihood is going to be restricted? Or is it going to
No, I don't think so, actually, because we all know crisis is mother of invention. And people will need to survive, a question of survival. Even if they get actually something at their doorstep, they are not going to stay. And we have already, we have all started hearing or listening that people have started coming back. And, you know, the greed of the urbanites is that actually they will have to bring them. And now many of the people, they have started bringing their people, they are calling them, they are sending them tickets. So I think, you know, as far as the human want is concerned, it's so great that people will not be restricted because they are not having anything at their disposal in the villages. They will have to come here.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, I'm Vasan Shetty.
Yes.
Actually, along with my compliments for your, very educative and informative lecture. What
Thank
we
you.
need, yeah, what we need is the strength
Strengthen?
public health system.
I could not get you. The what is strengthened?
System.
I can understand system, but what?
Public system.
Public, yeah. I think, yeah, you're correct. I think that's what the biggest takeaway is, that how public health system public delivery system, and actually, public food system, that all has to be strengthened. I think this is the biggest takeaway. And not only actually, I think the local administration, the cutting edge of the urban or the local areas, that has to be strengthened at any cost. We have seen actually how people were ready to sell off Air India, but what has happened? Air India has rescued so many people. So we need actually public services at our disposal.
Yeah, actually, we are only concentrating on water, soap, and sanitization mask.
But that has not helped much actually. Yeah.
Actually,
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
This is Sangeeta Pandey from Gorakhpur University.
Yes.
Very good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Your session was very informative. I wanted to ask, how can greed be tackled, sir? Can it be tackled in this era?
No, I think actually, sociology tells us that we should recognize that there is a pitfall. If we can recognize, I think we can definitely start practicing. If we do not know that there is this syndrome of greed is still existing, I think in this era, how much actually we can check number of ways. One is social auditing. Social auditing is one of the most important ways in which name and shame starts taking place. And because we have social media, we can make a small snippet, or we can make a small video and put it on the website. I think name and shame will start that these people are holding so and so. If that starts, I think we can have little bit of check. Of course, you are right actually that when Gandhi was saying that there is enough for everybody's need, for not for everybody's greed. So I think there is a greed, but I think we have to recognize that even in the days of pandemic, people have this greed. And if that can be fought with this naming and shaming, I think we can curtail down the enormity and intensity of it.
Yeah, thank you,
Sir, we have one question here from Randeep Gautam.
Yeah.
He's asking how does COVID-19 pandemic challenge capitalism in the context of globalization? And how does capitalism shape everyday life and everyday communication during this crisis?
I think, we can see that how private sector has caved down, whether it was, industries, they stopped actually giving money to their laborers, and that's why actually laborers went away. Now they are not able to find the market; they have to actually sell. So I think the important aspect in which actually capitalism was challenged was that they were not able to function at all, and unless and until they are functioning, they are asking bailout package from the government, and it is the state which is started funding. So in fact, actually, the private sector is not at all able to sustain itself. Unless and until it works, it functions, it cannot sustain itself, and therefore it is demanding things from the state. So I think that has raised the question on the existence of the market itself. There is a market which exists. Where is that market? Can it feed to its people? No, it is not. It is the state which has come forward. I think that's a very, very important lesson that we have to draw, and that is why public institutions have to be strengthened.
We have somebody by name Banu who has raised the hand. Banu, you please go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, sir. My name is Banu Singh. Sir, in the crisis of COVID-19, the political parties have not left a stone unturned to target the central government. They have raised the issue of privacy, the corruption charges in PM Care Fund, and this has made a lot of interest and distrust among the masses. So how to deal with such situation? Like you are saying, we need to come together, all parties should be on the similar line, but we are not seeing the same page on our country.
No, I think actually we cannot hold one party responsible for this. I think both the parties, government on its part and the political parties in opposition on their part. They are playing politics, everybody knows, because they are political parties. They are not voluntary organizations. They are not NGOs. They are actually, they want to score a brownie point. But actually, we have seen that there was lack of transparency and direction from certain parts, and therefore people became panic. And that's why we see the migrants, the way they started migrating. That was a very painful exercise. And, Karnataka court or High Court in number of states, they started taking note. But what did actually Supreme Court of India said that we cannot do anything. And then actually a lot of criticism was there. So when the state did not perform, I think there was even more criticism. So we have to look into transparency from both the sides, whether both the sides were transparent enough to convey their attitude towards the migrant laborers. That was, I think, one of the most important painful exercise. Otherwise, nobody was worried about what was happening to the banks, what was happening to the industries, great industries. So I think we need to take a lesson from this pandemic that at the time of crisis, we stand in solidarity, but it will take, the onus lies on both the parts.
Hello.
Yes, Sangeeta.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
Sangeeta.
I wanted to raise one more question. It is one sort of invisible distancing is also seen, sir. The people who are supporting us, the doodhwalas, the sabji walas, and people are viewing them with a special type of suspicion. Suspicion is there.
I think Sangeeta ji, actually what happens is that the lower strata, the marginalized, the lower strata, the marginalized sections, they are always looked down upon with suspicion. There is always a suspicion among them. So I think we have to educate ourselves in that sense of the term.
We should hold them high, sir.
Yeah, of course. But actually, the problem is that even those who are educated enough, those who are sociologically trained, they also do not look actually on them as with dignity of labor. They look with suspicion. So I think dignity of labor has to be taught in our curriculum. There is no chapter of dignity of labor. I think marginalized section of sociology should actually have one chapter on dignity of labor, and therefore we will look actually with respect to the people who contribute us in their labor. Like maids are suffering like anything. The domestic help, we are not calling them, and they are not getting their salaries. So they are the worst sufferers actually. So
excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me, I am S.R. Krishnamurthy. I would like to mention about this case, what you mentioned just now. Particularly when, you see, I do not belong to the lower class, but I am against this mask, which is totally unscientific. Even PPEs are, you see, because it's only our breathing that is life. And even a man can sustain without food for months, but you cannot live without breath even for 2 minutes. That being the case, why this mask which impedes free breathing? And it is unscientific because it does not allow free air to enter, and it also stops bad breath coming out from going out, you see, and stops at the nose, and he has to retake the same, you see, spoiled air.
No problem.
This is spreading actually, that's why this affectation is increasing.
Thank you so much. I can understand your point.
And another thing is, I do not wear mask, but I am treated even as you mentioned, it's only for lower classes. But I do not belong to the lower class. Still, I am looked up as if I am illiterate.
No, I said that it is a stigma attached to Mr. Krishna. I told you that there is a stigma attached to it. So I think we have to fight with the stigma also.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
Hello. Hello, hello, sir, this is Jagrati Deshpande from Agriculture University, Raichur.
Yes, Jagrati.
Hello. Sir, namaste, sir.
Yeah, ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದ್ಯಾ?
Sir, ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ sir, sir. Sir, ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ lecturing, sir.
Thank you so much.
Sir, why they have given this name for COVID as a social distance instead of it is COVID distance?
Yeah, that's what I explained in my sociology. Actually, I explained this in great length why it should not be considered as social distancing, rather physical distancing.
Just the COVID distance, we say, sir.
Okay, fine, thank
Sir,
you.
how this it has affected on the Indian economy, sir? As a social.
We have discussed this, Jagrati. We have discussed actually that how it has impacted so much, so many people, how it has impacted actually.
Good afternoon, sir.
Sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Sir, I'm Yogesh from Manasa Gangotri, Department of Economics, Mysore.
Yes.
Sir, I would like to ask you a question which is both economic and social sphere of human life. Now, the world is calling for new economic order, where we not only think about political democracy, but economic democracy.
Hello. Yeah. I'm not able to.
Yogesh, can you be a little louder?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Ramesh.
So the world economy is calling for a new economic order.
Yes.
We're concentrating on political democracy, but new economic democracy, where everybody has their own role to play in decision making of sharing the burden. So what's your comment on that? Is the Indian society ready for that economic democracy?
No, but what has happened actually now in the new order, the societies, the states, the governments, the economies, the culture, the society, the politics, all have been rendered meaningless. Where is that actually that these things are making any sense of it? And therefore, the new order which has to have, and what we were talking about as participatory democracy, unless and until people actually they become participatory, they start participating, I don't think that actually people can make sense. So I think your question is a very larger one in the sense of the world order, but now world order has to reshape. The world system has to look into the first world, the second world, the third world, the fourth world, whatever actually you like, that how this world system is being challenged. So I think
the COVID-19 has given us the grave reality of lack of financial inclusion in our society.
No, but it's still, do you think, are you talking about that there is a lack of financial crisis in the society, or it is basically artificially created?
So according to IMF statistical reports, financial crisis is forecasted, which is for sure. But I'm talking about the financial inclusion, where larger part of the people in a society, they pay the cost of this financial crisis, which is posed by COVID-19, economic shock.
But I'm saying that actually, how will you account that, for last 15 days, there is increase of petrol prices? How do you account for that? Why can't a state reduce that? And there is no international rise in the price.
So the most important thing.
So I think
here.
No, I think listen to me actually first, and then I've heard you. But I'm trying to argue that how the state has to be conducive enough to accommodate individuals in the society. If the state itself is not ready to accommodate, how can we actually look into it? The taxes on the petrol, the diesel has gone ahead. Why actually it is so? I think there has to be something very, very important. And that is basically the government of the day becomes responsive enough to the needs of the people first. And in this COVID crisis, that how can you increase prices? Yeah, that is a foregone conclusion as an academic, I ask.
And that's what we should call for a new policy reform, you say.
Pressure. That's what I'm that there is no international pressure, and even then it is happening. So actually, there is a need for a responsible administration itself, and then let us see actually how we can place ourselves in the world order.
Sir, thank you, sir. There are a lot of hands are raised, but I don't think we can take all the questions. But if you permit me, I can send your email address. If they have anything to question, they can write to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody. I now request Dr. Venkatraman.
I know from my side, actually, Sudha, I would like to thank the Bangalore University and Department of Sociology, and I congratulate you and the head of the department, chairperson, because I think if you really want to strengthen the discipline of sociology, then you need to strengthen such type of institution which bring in more people, and that creates sociology with actually its methodological understanding. Sociology is not poem, sociology is not story writing, but sociology needs methodological understanding. And I think therefore Department of Sociology, Bangalore University deserve a clap for organizing such a nice webinar. I clap for them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I now request Dr. Venkatraman, Assistant Professor, Department of Sociology, Bangalore University, to propose the vote of thanks.
So it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of Department of Sociology, Bangalore University, Bangalore, so extend our heartfelt thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Venugopal KR, sir, for taking out time in his busy schedule and encouraging and guiding us through this event. I thank Professor B.C. Mailarab, sir, Dean Faculty of Arts, so Bangalore University, Bangalore, for his cooperation and encouraging us to take of such ventures. To thank our chairperson, Samata B. Deshmane, for her support and guidance. So, to thank Dr. Sudha Pukote for her dedication to make this a successful event. I take this opportunity, sir, to thank today's eminent speaker, sir, Professor Vivek Kumar, Chairperson, JNU, New Delhi. So for your accepting our invitation and making us think in many directions through your thought-provoking lecture, sir. So I extend, last but not the least, I express my sincere thanks for all the participants for the interest and overwhelming responses to this online national webinar. Thank you, one and all. So India and abroad. So further, we grateful to Dr. B.R. Suresh and Naveen for their excellent technical support. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for today's session. Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you so much, Sudha.
Yes, sir, thank you. It was a great pleasure having you here, sir.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave that.
Our second session of the day will begin at 3 o'clock. So please join us at 2:45. Yes.
Hey.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಅವರೇ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ನಾನು ಕಳ್ಸಿದ್ದೀನಿಲ್ಲ.
Hello. Hello.
Madam Matadi.
Before joining the next session, afternoon session, we would like to welcome the chief guest of our today's seminar, today's webinar. The chief guest is Srimati K. Jyoti, IAS officer, Registrar of Bangalore University.
Srimati K.
K. Jyoti, IAS, Registrar, Bangalore University. And I am introducing the Professor B.C. Mailarappa sir. Professor B.C. Mailarappa sir is the senior professor of the Department of Sociology, Dean, Faculty of Arts, Bangalore University. So I want to proudly welcome these personalities. Professor B.C. Mailarappa, Department of Sociology, Dean, Faculty of Arts, Bangalore University, Bangalore. Professor is a committed and born fighter. He has understood the pulse of hunger and the pain of humiliation in the caste-dominated social structure. Senior professor in the sociology department, Dr. B.C. Mailarappa sir is a simple and straightforward scholar. Has many more future projects and contribution to make to the world of knowledge and literature. Thank you, sir. You are supported wholeheartedly for this 3 days national seminar for social implication of COVID-19. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.